Just when you thought the news in the fake and ultra-processed meat world couldn't get any weirder, the US government decides to step in and endorse a literal franken-food. The government telling people to eat ultra-processed foods really isn't anything new, save for one thing in this case. We are talking about foods that exist on the frontier of science. We don't really know what the long-term effects of eating this stuff in particular is going to be on human health. Yet, the government stepped in and said, nah, go ahead. This stuff is safe. Why do they do that? Probably because of lobbying. Plus, processed foods allow for greater control to be exerted by the powers that shouldn't be over the lives of everyday people, people like you and I. I was a little surprised that this story didn't make major news or get talked about by any of the people in the carnivore and keto world dedicated to, whole foods and warning people about the rise of franken foods. The FDA has approved cultivated meat for human consumption, claiming there is no danger to human health for eating lab-grown cloned meat. Do you believe them? Let's go with mainstream media sources first for this story. Headline from CNBC. FDA says lab-grown meat is safe for human consumption. Now, CNBC is a business news site, right? And we shouldn't be surprised that the FDA approved this slop for human consumption. The landscape of food in the United States is most highly processed garbage available anywhere in the world, with few, if any, controls and obvious horrific health outcomes for the population. Americans regularly consume ingredients in processed foods that are frankly banned in most other fully developed countries, and it's highly likely that these ingredients are at the root cause of the obesity crisis in the United States today. The FDA and USDA approved those ingredients for the population to eat, showing how absolutely worthless those organizations are. From the article, quote, the Food and Drug Administration for the first time cleared a lab-grown meat product developed by a California startup as safe for human consumption, marking a key milestone for cell-cultivated meats to eventually become available in the U.S. supermarkets and restaurants. The FDA cleared Upside Foods, formerly known as Memphis Meats, to use animal cell culture technology to take living cells from chickens and grow the cells in a controlled environment to produce cultured animal cell foods. The agency said it evaluated Upside Foods' production and cultured cell material and has, quote unquote, no further questions about the safety of its cultivated chicken fillet. The company will be able to bring its products to market once it's been inspected by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, end quote. The FDA's director of the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition actually released a statement on the stuff, telling you immediately that this product is political in nature. The process of making this so-called food is described pretty clearly in the FDA statement. Get ready for something that sounds like totally natural here, folks. Quote, the regulation of cell culture technology is being done collaboratively and in close partnership with USDA-FSIS for food made from cultured livestock or poultry cells. Under the March 2019 formal agreement, both agencies agreed to a joint regulatory framework wherein the FDA oversees cell collection, cell banks, and cell growth and differentiation. The FDA's approach to regulating products derived from cultured animal cells involves a thorough pre-market consultation process. While this is not considered an approval process, it concludes when all questions relevant to the consultation are resolved. A transition from the FDA to USDA-FSIS oversight will take place during the cell harvest stage. USDA-FSIS will oversee the post-harvest processing and labeling of human food products derived from the cells of livestock and poultry. This closely coordinated regulatory approach will ensure that cell-cultured products derived from the cell lines of livestock and poultry meet federal regulations and are accurately labeled. Both agencies are working with manufacturers to ensure these products meet all applicable FDA and USDA FSIS requirements. Advancements in cell culture technology are enabling food developers to use animal cells obtained from livestock, poultry, and seafood in the production of food, with these products expected to be ready for the U.S. market in the near future. The FDA's goal is to support innovation in food technologies while always maintaining as our first priority the safety of the foods available to the U.S. consumers. The FDA has extensive experience in food safety assessment across a wide range of food production technologies, including the use of biological systems and biotechnology. The agency is evaluating new substances all the time as industry practices evolve to meet consumer demands and preferences. Food made with cultured animal cells must meet the same stringent requirements, including safety requirements, as all other food regulated by the FDA. End quote. I call BS here for one reason. There's no market demand for this stuff. Come on, give us a break. But in other words, this is cloned meat. I've reported on this before, and it's worth repeating now. We don't know what the long-term consequences are going to be for the consumption of cloned meat. The FDA has only been working with researchers on this since 2019, maybe 3.5 years at most, which is not long enough to determine what the long-term effects of this is going to be for human beings. We shall all be the real subjects for this when they release this on the public in the near future. And I say near future because that's what the FDA says in their statement and what Upside Foods says in a statement from their own website. Now the question is, will you try it? Look, I'm not going to unless it's the only meat available at all at the store. This stuff is probably safer than eating the highly processed vegan foods that are loaded with preservatives and phytoestrogens and weird chemical concoctions like heme and all this other stuff. But lab-grown meat will, by definition, be processed and unnatural, and it'll be ultra-processed. Even if the company on their website keeps saying that this is not a vegan product and is made from real delicious meat. Now, in fairness, I'll give the cultivated meat industry a chance to tell you directly what they say the benefits are of cultivated meat over traditional natural meat. From the Good Food Institute article on the subject, this is a lobbying organization, this is a public relations organization, quote, by nature of its more efficient production process, cultivated meat is expected to have a variety of benefits over conventional animal agriculture. Prospective life cycle assessments indicate that cultivated meat will use significantly less land and water, emit fewer greenhouse gases, and reduce agriculture-related pollution and eutrophication. According to a 2020 publication in Nature Food, commercial production is expected to occur entirely without antibiotics and is likely to result in fewer incidences of foodborne illnesses due to the lack of exposure risk from enteric pathogens. Over the next few decades, cultivated meat and other alternative proteins are predicted to take significant market share from the $1.7 trillion conventional meat and seafood industry. This shift will mitigate agriculture-related deforestation, biodiversity loss, antibiotic-resistant and zoonotic disease outbreaks, and industrialized animal slaughter, end quote. That hasn't been the effect yet so far with the alternative meats on the market already. Now, they don't say one way or another, but here's something to remember. Whenever the advocates for plant-based diets, or in this case, cultured meat, replacing real meat invoke water usage for raising cattle, they always fold in rainfall into the trackable piped water usage to get the data they cite for water consumption of animals, which is dishonest. If you live in cattle country, it's a pretty standard thing for ranchers to have natural or man-made foods on their property that collect rainwater that cattle drink out of directly. In fact, it's so common in cattle country that it's completely unremarkable when you see it. Yet the anti-meat zealots always fold that natural water usage into piped-in water usage to make it look like cattle are a huge drain on the environment, when the opposite is actually true, if you know anything about regenerative agriculture. Fortunately, propaganda dominates this entire discussion and has obfuscated the real science behind all of this, leaving me not trusting a single bit of it. Will you trust this cloned meat? Does the government endorsing it make you feel better about eating it? Let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help, as does sharing this on social media. That helps a lot as well. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for watching today.